Hi, welcome to the Global Ed Lifelong Learner podcast series, where we shine a light on inspiring and innovative educators and school leaders from different regions around the world. Really excited to have you join this conversation to learn more about your journey through education and your teaching and leadership philosophy as Director General at ECJ Global School in Brazil, which is the first bilingual school in the country. To kick us off, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your journey into education through to the leadership role that you have today.
Right. Hi, Max. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting and welcoming people from all over the world. I think we have so much to learn from each other. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So you asked me to tell you about my journey, and that's a long journey. And bear with me, please, because it all started when I was a child. Education is, I think it's an very inspiring field. And it's impossible to talk to you about my journey without mentioning my very first teacher. And I think it might sound like, okay, a commonplace. Of course, she's going back to that, but I don't think it is obvious at all, because I had someone in my life called Eloisa. And this teacher, I think it's important to tell you that I am in Brazil, as you said, and public education is not, for us here, is not what it is. And please correct me anytime, what it is when you talk about public education in Britain, because for us, that is what we would call private education here. So when we talk about public education, we are talking about what is subsidized by the government, and it's democratic. The idea behind it is wonderful. We do have, for example, healthcare for everyone. We call it SUS. We have education for everyone, free education until people are ready to go to university. So the idea and all the concept behind it is very democratic and just, very fair. However, the execution is not what it should be. So when we talk about public education and public education for all, we are also talking in Brazil about what unfairness. We are talking about teachers not getting just wages. They are not well paid. The most of the times, I'm not saying 100%, but most of the times the infrastructure is not the ideal. So I was fruit of that public education. And I can tell you, unfortunately, that since then, things didn't get better. They got worse. So perhaps at my time, I can talk about a public education that was a little bit less tragic as it is today. And I'm not getting into politics or anything here. I'm talking about what it is, looking through the lens of an educator as a teacher. I wish my children could have gone to public school here, but that was not an option. So talking about my roots, I was very lucky. And that's why I set that scenery for you, because despite all that, I had wonderful teachers, wonderful references, inspiring. And Heloisa was a very, very special teacher. She started every class playing music for us. And she was a musician as well. So she would bring her own instruments, usually an accordion, and we would start the day singing a song that was very age. It was for children. And I remember the song still this day. And we would end every class with Eloisa reading a piece, a chapter of a literary book. So we started the day with art and we ended the day with art. And that paved the way for what came later. And it was very easy for me to see educators that came after her, even in university and anywhere I went, through those lenses, trying to find Heloisa in a piece of Heloisa in all of them. So I believe, Max, that set the scene. And at age 16, believe it or not, and I don't think that's the best thing to do ever, but it worked for me. Age 16, I was ready and I had finished all my steps, and I was ready to go into university. And I was sitting there and I just to tick a box. So what? Are you going to do now? I remember at that time considering journalism, and I think I would have been a very good journalist. I like communicating. I like being with people. I thought of law, and I think it's got to do with my sense of fairness, wanting equality. I don't know if I would have been a good lawyer, but it was there. But 5 minutes after I start pondering, I actually ticked the box of a teacher. And here we call letters, which means we are going to study languages. My choice was English and Portuguese, language and literature. And for a long time, that's where I was. And I was happy doing that, teaching language and literature for different ages. Usually starting at the age of 13 till the end of high school. And that's the way it all started.
Amazing. And you mentioned a teacher there that inspired you. I think that's a common theme, isn't it, that runs through a lot of educators today and leaders in schools as well, that there's sort of that one person that really inspires them. Are there elements of is it Eloise you said?
Eloisa, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
What elements of what inspired you when you were young have you sort of taken with you to when you went into teaching yourself? Are there elements that you borrowed from her and sort of thought I want to integrate
And
that?
of course, from so many. I think it's all about affection. We learn with our hearts, and I really believe that. And I don't know if it's just learn with our heart. I think we live with our hearts. I was just watching a podcast, and I'm very sorry that I'm not going to be able to tell his name. It's Renato. He's a philosopher. He's Brazilian, and he was talking about. I didn't catch from the very beginning, but I believe he was talking about this hate that goes around everywhere you go, especially in the net and social media. So what he was trying to say at the end of the day was that everything goes through affection, even our thoughts. So we think with affection. And what we understand by lack of affection is actually the lack of opportunity to exercise affection, perhaps because the person that is doing that didn't learn through love.
Yeah.
So either from their parents or from their teachers or both. So so that's what I brought. And I always believed that I had to connect with my students.
Yeah.
But it's not just the students, is it, Max? I think it's the world is intertwined. We need to find our common places so we can get together, and then we learn from the differences. We needed to find something that makes us human, and then we learn the rest.
Start with the commonalities, then look for the differences, right? It's so important. Yeah. And just sort of spotlighting your school there that you're at, Soraia. Can you talk to me a bit about ECJ? The fact that it is the first bilingual school in Brazil as well, and I believe it's part of the Cognita group as well. Is that correct?
That's right.
So yeah, if you could talk to me a bit about the school that you're at, that would be fantastic.
And we call it PlayPen because it's part of the name, and it's
great name, by the way.
Because the first time, yes, it is interesting because when we talk about, I must admit that when I first heard PlayPen, I said, well, is it a school? Is it a playground or something? And I think talking about what we've just said about affection, I think it's a lot about the school. It is the first bilingual school in Brazil. It was founded 43 years ago. And very recently, I was thinking about that, what it means, what it meant then to be the first bilingual school in Brazil. I'm not sure about South America or Latin America, but that's something that I
Did it
should
open as a
check.
did it open as a bilingual school 43
It
years ago, did it? Okay.
always, yes,
Oh,
from the very, very beginning. So, but it would be interesting. This is my homework. I'll take it with me to find out where we are positioned in South America or even Latin America. But yes, so I was just thinking one of these days with my colleagues, what it meant to be a bilingual school 43 years ago. I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe it's got a lot to do with what the big international schools today say about themselves. I think PlayPen, being the first bilingual school, was also the very first international school. But we chose to be bilingual and to get deep into that, really understand what bilingualism was all about, and try to get and provide the best of it. And just very recently, we moved, and it was a natural move. And when I say recently, I started the PlayPen in 2021, and we just started this movement to get into the International Baccalaureate world in 2022. IB's been with me for at least 20 years. And when I got in there, I just felt it was really natural that PlayPen moved in that direction without, and that was very, very important for us, without letting go our Brazilian roots. So we never intended to be seen as the international school PlayPen. No, we are a Brazilian school, and we follow the international baccalaureate premises, and not premises, sorry, help me with the word.
the curriculum, yeah,
And that's it. Yes,
yeah,
the framework,
yeah,
what they believe, the mission statement.
yeah.
We looked at our mission statement and checked if we needed to adequate or change some words to make it more homogeneous and appropriate to go with the IB hand in hand. And there was no effort from PlayPen to move into that world. So it was natural. But we are proud to say that we are a Brazilian school with an international framework.
Yeah, fantastic. And in terms of that transition from, were you teaching the Brazilian curriculum, national curriculum initially, and then integrated the IB curriculum a couple of years ago, right? And how was that
Yeah,
transition period in terms of the day-to-day and bringing staff on board, making sure everything's aligned?
yeah, there is a lot of challenges in that. I think it's important, and if I may, the IB is not a curriculum. The IB is actually a framework, and when we talk about curriculum, we are very careful. Probably the way it sounds when we say curriculum in Brazil. When we talk about curriculum in Brazil, usually the first thing that comes to our minds is the content, what is going to be taught rather than how. So I know when we speak in English, it's much more than that, but we need to be careful because IB is very careful when the approach they come is we are going to tell you where we want to get to. And it talks about IB because IB was born with the IB diploma. So they started from the end, they knew where they wanted to get to, and then they started looking backwards what they needed to build in order to make sure that the students were going to get there the way they imagined the world needed them to be. And it's very interesting because if you look at the 10 attributes of IB, you see very obvious things. They should be obvious, but they are not easy to incorporate, especially in the world that we are living in today. So it was challenging to get everybody on board to understand that change was not a real change. Rather, it was much more getting things organized. And IB brings an organization and they give us off. We know we are doing the right thing, but we don't always know if we're doing the right thing the best way possible. And IB helps us to shape that and make sure that everybody's on board. IB brings the necessity of collaboration.
Mm.
And that's something that we've always believed in. But now we have someone else saying, yes, it is important. It's not a waste of time. And there are ways that you can actually optimize your time with your team to make things happen in the best way possible within the time frame that we have, because we know it's challenging as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question because I
Yeah,
started speaking.
absolutely. Yeah.
Teachers are like that, aren't they? We start speaking and then we just don't know where we are going to get to.
I'd actually love to dive into one of those elements in terms of the bringing staff on board, continuing their journey within the school and keeping them engaged and making sure they're retained and keeping them engaged within the school environments and the school culture. So how do you, as a leader of the school at ECJ, how do you develop your staff professionally? Do you have sort of structured professional development sessions to ensure that all staff are brought along in that journey and your vision for the school, and ultimately keeping them retained and engaged within the school? I'd love to learn a bit more about that.
We really look at how we talk about teachers and everybody that's around them, collaborators, because we really believe that everybody that is inside the school is responsible for education. We educate through example. So I'm sure we have the best front desk in São Paulo. Yeah, her name is Sandra, and she's the face of PlayPen. She's kind, she's attentive, she knows everybody's names, parents' names, sometimes the grandparents' names. She never misses a birthday. So the moment the child arrives, she says, "Happy birthday, Pedro, Sandra, Mary." And we all wonder where she got that information from and how she has all that information, because it's not something that we expect. It is wonderful, but it's not something that we tell our front desk, I will say receptionist, because she is the person that receives everybody. So the receptionist has, so it's not something that we tell her, but this is the way she is. And she's loved, and we want her to be an example for us as well, for me, because I see so much kindness and spontaneity. She does it so from her heart that we should all learn from that. So talking about retention, I think this is it, to value people as they are. And when we look at professionals, we need to make sure that they are valued in that sense as well. So of course, IB shows and helps us do that, because IB offers a great range of different professional development courses. But this is not all. We always make sure, for example, we have something, there is the Médecins Sans Frontières, we have the Teachers Sans Frontières. So we call it, because we are a group of over 100 schools. So that enables us, for example, to send teachers to different schools, to spend some time there, learn from people that believe in education as much as us, but are in different countries. So they have to have different approach, understand the culture. So it is very rich for us when we send a teacher overseas to spend some time in a school and then bring the Jews and share among our community. So this is something, for example, that is happening, that's going to happen in January. And we always try to think about, we have policies. Our policies, they come from Cognita. Cognita is a British group. So we have all the safeguard, health and safety policies that are born in Britain and adapted to our reality. So that also, all the collaborators go through a number of workshops and capacitations to give us also that look of care. So it's not just about learning how to teach or the best teaching. methodologies, but it's also how to look in the eyes of a student and understand how they are feeling and value that feeling, validate the way they are feeling. So we know that people that are well, mentally healthy, they learn better.
Yeah.
So we need to take care of people as a whole. So we are always looking at these different uh, um, sections, let's say, and try to provide our staff the capacitation, the professional development that we need to be able to build professionals with all those elements that we understand are core for our success.
Yeah, and that sort of almost an exchange program, isn't it? It sounds like between the cognitive schools. Sounds like a really amazing opportunity for your staff. How many staff members are there at ECJ?
We are a small school. We have
Yeah.
very few students. Well, few. Yes, we believe that in order to be able to exercise that kind of care at that level, we can't have many students in the classroom. For São Paulo, if you come and when you come to visit our school, you will see, no, it's not a small school at all. But if you think about Harrow or Eton, yes, it is very small. We have one classroom and we are a K9 school. So we have one classroom for 6th to 9th graders. We have one classroom for each. Then for the others, we have two classes for each. And we don't want for the little ones, the very little ones, for example, we have 15 students at the most because they are very little. They need much more care. So as they grow, we can fit more, but we don't exceed 25 students in a class. So talking about that, we have over 200 people working. So we have at least 2 collaborators per student. Let's put it this way. Yeah.
2 collaborators per student. Love that. I think that's such a good reframe, isn't it? Because we're collaborators with each other, but also with the students as well, right? It's
for them.
Yeah, on the same platform. Fantastic. And in terms of, it sounds like, you've developed an amazing culture and community at the school there, Soraia. What steps, practical steps, maybe that others that are listening and watching this conversation, what could they do that maybe you've learned to help build those relationships with the local community, with parents? It sounds like your staff members know the students' parents, grandparents' names, for example. I love that that touch. That's such an important human-centered approach. So, yeah, what could someone learn that's listening to this to help build and foster a stronger relationship with their community, would you say?
I think the first thing is we don't know it all.
Yeah.
And we need to listen and listen carefully, active listening from each other so we can be better and make it better. So the first thing that we actually position ourselves as, please bring your perspectives. And we do it in different ways. You talked about events we are holding. We've just thought about this new event that we could hold at the end of the year for us here. So our school year goes from end of January till December with few stops throughout. So we were thinking about how we could actually engage. We are always thinking about that, Max. Engage our community and perhaps bring others. So we have right now, Christmas is coming up. We have the children thinking about ways to collect toys, new toys from each other and from neighbors, so they can put in aside a big box we have at reception, and then decide where we are going to go so we can help Christmas. But we know that we need to do these kind of things throughout the entire year and actually engage with some places that need some help. But rather than just think about things that are, pinpoint things throughout the year, we want actually to adopt institutions to make a real difference and see how much our interference is impacting positively in the growth of that institution. So everything we do thinking about how we are going to make students develop that sense of solidarity, that sense of responsibility towards others. And in order to do that, we can't just aim at students. We have to aim at the entire community. We need to change minds. We need to show them what we understand that can actually make a difference and make the world a more peaceful place to live in,
Yeah.
and our responsibility with the others. So we are always thinking about different ways to engage. It's either a campaign that we are holding or an event. So there's going to be an event in a 2 week time where we are going to invite community, not the school community only, but whoever they want to bring. And we are going to provide an entire morning with cultural activities. We are going to have music, play, magicians, but we are also going to have phonoaudiologists to check. We are going to have people that are, help me here with this specialization, where they look at the children and they can actually say if there is anything motor that is, in terms of the way they walk, or, yeah, we call it.
Yeah.
And so what we are bringing is a number of professionals together.
Specialists that can help spotlight certain things that maybe students need more support in, or that they might need more more engagement around to help them, I suppose assistive tools, right, to
that's it,
level the playing field for certain
so we
students.
are bringing all these people together, and then the parents are going to leave their email addresses, and in a week's time they're going to receive a report. Of course, it's something superficial, but with the possibility to get deeper if they wish, get in touch with these specialists and carry on. But it's also going to be a morning with lots of fun and cultural activities, as well as a big table of, coconut water and fruits. It's also a way to show them how much we value what we eat, what we put in our bodies. So it's not about the mind, it's mind, body. We need it to be physically and mentally healthy. So the moment we achieve that, we can build on other aspects. So
and nurturing the community as well at the same time, right? Nurturing the individual and the collective.
Yes. And it must be fun, because we learn better when we are having fun. We believe in smiles, Max. We believe in hugging people and holding their hands and actually approaching them with sincerity, honesty, and trying to reach and show us and give them the best of us at the highest level possible. That's what we aim all the time. Yeah, that's what we want. So it's easier to get there when you know what you want.
Exactly. Knowing what you want, that's such an important lesson, isn't it? And then you can work back from there and
absolutely
continue to build and engage the community in an authentic, creative way, it sounds like, with what you're doing.
And intentional.
Intentional.
We need to do it. We need to we can't just, we are not young anymore. We are young at heart, but we know better than that. So we need to do things with responsibility. We need to with accountability. We need to actually be there for our children and parents. Absolutely.
So some brilliant takeaways there, Soraia. Thank you for that. And the last, my last question for this first chat is how do you see, obviously you're doing a lot of fantastic work at ECJ and the first bilingual school. Now you've integrated that international framework as well with the IB as of a couple of years. How do you see the future of international education in terms of blending that global mindset looking forwards, but also really grounding yourself in the environment and culture that you are acting within the community as well? So how do you see that future of international education more broadly?
Okay, this is I love talking about that, And this is, and now much more than that, Soraia, director, professional, I'm going to be just a Soraia dot, because this is, for me, is the most serious aspect and element of being a human today. I don't even know if I want to talk about the future, because I think we are behind what we should have done already in terms of embracing diversity. People are still discussing about diversity without realizing diversity is not something to argue about. It is there. It's beside you. So let's not argue whether there is or there is. Of course there is. So it's a reality. So what we do with that is what matters and tells people about you and who you want to be. For me, diversity is the best thing in the world. It's the way I present myself and the way I expect people to look at me. I want to be looked at as somebody that can somehow, even a tiny bit, contribute to others. If I go through people's lives and I have no impact, I make no difference, I honestly don't know what I'm doing here. So I really believe that this is the only way to go. I don't see plan B. There is no other option but living in a whole community. So I should say, and of course it's true that internet, social media brings us together and gives us a much broader sense of reality and understanding all these differences. It also brings together with it the possibility to hear people refuting, trying to abandon it and bringing a lot of hate speeches, trying to get away from it. It is a way to approach, but we have to look at these people as people that might not have had the opportunity to address difference in a way that they understand that they can grow from it. We fear, and I think we had the opportunity to talk about that before, we fear what we don't understand. And rejection is usually, and this for all of us, the very first thing that we do. We tend to reject. But that's why we have to be observers of ourselves, not the others. We don't have to observe others. If we just looked at ourselves every time, because we are going, it's very wake up thinking, what am I going to reject today? Who am I going to reject today? And how am I going to try to avoid it before it happens? Because it will happen with all of us. We need to just to face it as a reality. So what we need to do is try to walk through the days with that sense of love. And I'm going to be very commonplace here, but yes, I believe in love, and I think it's the only way to go. If we, sorry, go on, please.
No. I was just
I
gonna,
love talking about that subject, and
yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, it goes back to what we first discussed, wasn't it? The fact that we need to find our commonalities as the first port of call, and then and then you can always sort of dive into differences, quite easily, because we're all different naturally, right? But searching for that commonality piece feels like it's really the only way. Yeah,
absolutely, yes, and it's very good because you are there, you're in Britain, you are wearing your pullover, your jumper. I'm in Brazil. I have the air conditioner on, Max. Yeah, so yeah. I think this is wonderful. It's being able to share our ideas, and it's a very serious subject, but I love to do things. Yeah, sense of humor, which, by the way, I think the British has the best. I love very dry, very interesting, very witty, and but I think that's the way we approach things. They are serious issues, but we don't have to do it with, with group faces.
Happiness.
We can do it with a smile.
Yeah,
right?
with levity. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, what an inspiring leader you are, Soraia. I must say, I'd love to work in your school with your with your leadership, I think. And in terms of my last question is sort of, I'd love to end on one bit of advice that you would give maybe a future leader or an existing leader. What does it take to be a great leader? What would you say? Your one piece of advice.
I'm going to say something that I really believe. It's not mine. I wish you were. Lead by example. Be the leader that you want to have. Put yourself in other people's shoes. Try to feel how they feel, and try to see and talk to them how you can contribute. What you think is the best may not be the best at all. So if you just stop and listen, really listen, you will find that you can do much better.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Soraia. What a great way to end this conversation.
Thank you, Max.